and I want to fashion my question in this format. What's your relationship with Vusi Mkhatshwa, Sasegani Manzini, Desmond Muela?
They are my former comrades in the former movement. Indeed, I was suspended in the ANC Youth League. So I first lost my job when the MEC was now no longer made an MEC in 2014.
Yeah.
Right? And then
This will be which MEC?
MEC SPD Skosan.
Okay. The establishment, as in like, you know, the organization at the time, looked at you as a threat.
I was accused of forming a political formation when I never had an interest of forming a political party. Even to this day.
Let's say, how much were you paying there? In your, okay, how much was Mega paying there at Absa Square?
So if you are paying 100,000,
Yeah.
somewhere you pay 170. If you are paying 10 million, somewhere you pay just 17 million out of the blue.
Lotshani, awakhe ngithome ngokubingelela kuphina kuphela kufinyelela khona e-Big City. Thank you so much for borrowing us your eyes and being clued in to yet another episode. I think it's a long time coming, this episode. I mean, I don't know how many times we have settled it and then had to postpone because we were on another production space. He was traveling abroad, and you know there were so many other things that would not have made it possible at the time. But I don't believe in coincidences. I believe this is the right time. And ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome on the big seat none other than Thabo Motau. He joins us now in conversation as we try and navigate around who he is. I know a lot of people have been saying, well, are you one of them? Let's find out. Thabo, are you well, my brother?
I'm well, my brother, and you?
Yeah, I know, good.
I'm good.
It's finally good to see you and have a conversation with you.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
You know, we've been trying to get together.
Yeah.
Greetings, my brother, and any other person that your podcast reaches out to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's start. Who's Thabo? I'll tell you what I know of Thabo. Maybe we'll navigate, maybe not really in sequence, but navigate some of those things. I know that. In fact, something I learned last week, and I don't know why it's not been very clear to me. You are the mega chairperson that never really got to serve a long time there.
Yes.
At Mega.
Yes.
Thabo would have somewhat formed a part in the Delmast Fest. Thabo is a business person, he's an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Maybe on a humanitarian aspect or as a philanthropy, you are somebody who helps people, and Thabo has started service delivery party. You've served in the ANC, you were in the structures of the Youth League. I'm told that there was a point you lost your employment simply because of people in the ANC. But yeah, let's talk about who Thabo is. That's what I know of Thabo. Then we'll navigate around, some of the highlights, lowlights of your career, your personal self. But maybe let's start. Who's Thabo? Where were you born?
Yes, Musa, you've covered. Yeah, look,
Yeah.
I'm born in a not so much of a small town now, Delmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up there. I'm born there in the farms. I go to school there. I think somewhere around 2003, I lead the LRC. At the time, I thought when you get the biggest number, you are going to lead. Yeah, but then I go to study at the University of Johannesburg through NSFAS, and then I graduate in record time. I come back home.
Yeah.
But I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm an entrepreneur, like you have said.
Yeah.
Background-wise, the family, I'm raised by a single parent, like most people, coming from, growing up in a shack.
Sure.
Yes, and obviously coming back to, because I'd left Delmas when I was an activist.
Yeah.
But obviously coming back, I was unemployed, rejoined my former movement, the youth wing of my former movement.
Yeah.
Participated there, and I think I founded what was Great Achievers. In fact, it was an old organization, an NPO, sort of revived it. But when I was at, and this I always like to tell it, when I was at university in 2005,
Yeah.
I was almost the only person there. And I met a group of guys from Davidton, and then sort of we came together So when I used to, I don't know what is that thing, my English would not be good. I
Hitchhiking.
used to hitchhike.
Yeah.
I used to hitchhike, on the N12.
Yeah.
So when I would come from the Vista campus, realizing that, but because many people in my class, I was probably the only one. And then I started getting forms. At the time we applied, used forms. And then I collected forms, carry a tie pack full of forms. When I come back, I would then go to schools, like on a Monday, go to schools, educate people. Mondays, as fast you can be able to study and so forth and so forth. And that later on would become an organization called Academia, which is what I've always said. So I've always been involved in sort of community development, I think, from that time. Then I think somewhere around 2012, because I was unemployed for the longest time, around 2012, I became the youth manager in Victor Kanye local municipality.
Yeah.
I've only worked for government for about less than 3 years, collectively. So about a year and a half, and then I was appointed at age 27. I was the chief of staff, which is at director level, in the office of the MEC for COCTA then. Then I was in the ANC Youth League PEC. Then I was also in the region where I was a spokesperson when there was a task team.
Yeah.
And then somewhere around 2014, there was a conference in my former movement. And I led a campaign which used to be called Bring Back Nkangala. And we had a lot of sort of issues.
Yeah.
Dominantly were young people who felt that the direction that my former movement was taking was not correct. And leaving that conference, I would be fired for differing, basically. I got suspended. So there was quite a lot that would have happened. So my history with activism and politics really, I think, dates that far. And I think we can carry on to where we get here.
Yeah.
So obviously going back, that unceremonious removal, you left at age 28 at that level. I was earning quite well. Then I get fired, you go back to Ekasi, you then become unemployed. But when I got back to Ekasi, I found activists, and then I think there was a huge protest that was there. So, part of what education does, we go to school so that we study, so that we better our lives.
Yeah.
But amongst other things is that we impact and contribute to our communities. And then then they say, man, when can you help us and we navigate this thing?
Yeah.
So we sort of mobilized together, and then I think I started, mediating, as you protest, don't block the roads and so forth, mediate between the taxi industry, between the mining sector and all that.
Yeah.
And later on, we would have what we called the Socio-Economic Development Forum of the town. And obviously, there was so much instability in the province and in the country around the mining sector and industries. It was the radical economic transformation, almost conversation going at that time. So basically, my role there would have been to mediate. At some point, I was radical. But when you get into these meetings, and some of the executives we met were actually black executives.
Yeah.
So one of the major problems that was there was that industries and companies in our small town didn't pretty much contribute, to what the laws of this country are saying.
Sure.
So for instance, there would be an SLP of the mine, but
Sure.
when we came in, not a single person basically in our town had a truck running in the mine, and there were no classrooms and so forth and so forth. So we came in, and I then looked at the legislation, what the legislation says, and I sort of informed what were my comrades at the time to say, look, we can be able to. So when we were engaging the captains of industries, we were saying the laws of this country are saying you should be able to contribute, in our towns in this fashion. But I think where I then begin to make a decision to go into mining and the other things is that when we met the executives that were coming, I always thought that, man, the people who are meeting here, who are owning these industries are actually, of a white color, of white skin. And some of them there was a guy called Shemi Luvengo, and he's an executive in one of these industries. So we had met radical in the meeting, and thereafter he engages me. And he asked me, what do you want to do? I then said, do you own this thing? And he said, yes. I said, I actually want to be like you. I want to. And I then went back and then I looked at what the legislation says. And many a times you find communities and activists and people who lead in government would say, the MPRDA says a mining company or a company must benefit community, right? But there's a point that they miss there, and an important point which says, before you can say these guys can contribute, you can actually own. So when I look at the MPRDA, it actually says, and I always say this, that for anybody in this country to put up a prospecting right, a mining permit, it really costs a 2,500 rand cost. So that's why I sort of come in, being an activist, meet these guys, and the fellow agreed to sort of mentor me. And then sort of I had an appetite, then applied for my first project. You can understand, the other day you were wearing an all-star protesting, and the other time now you learn, you think this thing is doable. And I had this vision that this thing is doable. So I started applying Musa crazily, like for over 100 projects. I had, my more than 10 rejections, and so forth and so forth. And then I go into business, obviously with that logistics and a couple of other businesses. Yeah, so I mean today I probably participate in a variety of sectors. Sure. But I would obviously limit, that conversation in terms of where we participate because, yes.
I just want us quickly to exhaust this part of the business element, right? You come from a region which is Nkangala, where illegal mining is also rife, in as much as it is rife in the Garsebande region, in the Hlanzeni region. I mean, when you look at areas such as Babatol, where they are illegally mining gold, whereas in Nkangala they are illegally mining coal. Give me your sense of what needs to happen. I mean, you are in the space, you understand some of the dynamics very well. Obviously, it's disheartening for you to live in an environment in a township where there is this mineral, but obviously to get rights to actually participate in that economy, it's exorbitant, and some of these people do not do not have those funds easily available. Talk to me about maybe what do you envisage could be the solution, primarily how we deal with illegal mining and maybe standardize and somewhat formalize that economy, or what is then also the role of some of the players? I mean, you look at areas in Malahleni, including Victor Kanye. Some of these areas are underdeveloped in a sense that there's exorbitant of millions, billions that are extracted from the ground. But like you were saying, these mining companies are not adhering to the SLP. They're not, adhering even just to social labor contributions in general.
Yeah, so I think let's start maybe from the illegal mining element. And I think the approach, and referring to Victor Kanye and the likes of Malahleni, and I know that is rife where illegal mining is. Yeah. I think really, if you look at the cost factors, and I say application is a mere 2,500. Yeah. But the one factor which I think is important is awareness and, education from the side of the DMRE. That is number one. Sure. Precisely because the fellow who goes and conducts illegal mining, do they have sufficient knowledge that I can actually put an application for 2,500? Yes, there are cost factors. And the other element that may need to kick in, the cost associated with getting a full EIA and so forth and so forth. And this is where I really think that the local municipalities and obviously the Department of Mineral Resources and the DFIs would really need to come in. Sure. Where these things are sort of funded. Because if you look at all the other countries that are developing, there's not so much money that is coming into South Africa from a prospecting perspective and funding point of view. So the element of education, but also making sort of funding available, but also legalizing this small scale mining. Because the other problem is that a fellow like a small Thabo is expected to comply with a whole range of other factors that are there. But I also do think, Musa, that what is wrong with the lack of contribution by bigger companies and mining companies throughout the country, by the way. You see, corruption plays a very huge role. I'm sitting here, me and you, right? Let's park the mining sector. Let's go to a company here, I don't like to mention names, that sells cars. We all, when I was here, I bought my car there. The laws of this country are saying when a company does over 50 million annually, right? It is has an obligation in accordance with the BE laws that you must comply. And annually, everybody, right, then reports back to the BE Commission and say, I have provided bursaries. I have in all the 5 segments that are there, trained people and what have you. My interest, which I always ask, and I ask people when I go to Pinar, I said, is there a student here who has a bursary, or is there a crèche or a school that has been built by this company that has been operating here in town? And that happens because, one, there is an element of corruption, that those who are in the know, they would obviously probably, bribe, and people would pay consultants, to undercut and say, we have provided these bursaries, we have provided these. So the laws are actually maybe not entirely sufficient, but providing for that. And that is not applicable. So I think that is one area that is there. But the other area, and I have a full appreciation of PE, and it's a sad thing that when you participate in the sector like myself, people would assume that you were part of a PE deal and arrangement. I've never been part of any deal, right? But I'm a beneficiary of the PE laws of this country. I'm one person who says the PE laws of this country, we need to relook at them. And let me tell you why. You've got a mining company that sits 4 kilometers or a kilometer next to a community. A Thabo and a Leon and a group of friends, they go to this mine and they say, we're local people. And they get an opportunity, be it of trucking, be it of yellow equipment. And this guy got there, was wearing an all-star, fair enough, PE, we want to transform the economy so that we can close the gap, sure. Right? Fair enough. This guy's get an opportunity. And when this guy's got an opportunity, there is no provision in the PE law that this guy must benefit this community. There is no provision in the mining companies, in this PE law, that says when you are mining, you must provide a rand or two to these communities. And this model, I think it's a model that has got to be looked at. I don't think mining companies would have an issue, or even businesses, such that, because it's said that you have an area in the Northern Cape that has got an abundance of rare earth and many other minerals, copper. I went to a place called Ogip, my brother. You would cry tears when you go there. And 10 years from now, Emalahleni, 20 years from now, Victor Kanye will be the same place. So government needs to really kick in where these companies that are in that area contribute so much in the tax of this country, contributing in many other things. And there are these sort of emerging black elite and some connected that are benefiting here. But everybody benefits. That I'm benefiting because I'm black, I'm benefiting because I'm part of this community. But there is no quota. So at some point, it is my conviction that that quota would then say, where does this money go? Sure. And this money can go to the infrastructure. This money can go to education. So you can almost apportion it. The trucks that are running the roads in Emalahleni and Victor Kanye are paying, but that money doesn't come to local government to fix the very same roads, right? And it is the very same trucks that are contributing to that. So I really think that the laws there, they are in place, but there is something that needs to be done. But the lack of awareness of the people that we elect into positions of power, the lack of awareness of the people that are running the administration. Just in closing, Musa, on this subject, I always say local government, national government has the money, the provincial government has the authority, local government has most of the problem and heavily underfunded. And that situation is a bit problematic. If you look at the DMRE, the experts who are in the DMRE knows what is ought to be done. When you get into the municipality, a municipality that must authorize and sign an SLP for a mining company, you will find they will sign that we are okay with blankets, not calculating that, this is ought to be happening. And for companies, so yeah, I think I hope I responded to your question.
I like where the conversation is going, because we are headed for local government elections, and I think these are some of the conversations that become sacrosanct, obviously, to the debate and discussions that needs to be held around these issues. But we'll park that for now, because I want us to exhaust it fully when we look into maybe the prospectus of the SDP as to what is it that you're offering in municipalities and all. Now let's go back to your life of old in the movement you once belonged to, which is the ANC. I mean, talk to me about how did you end up losing your job, I'm told, as a result of the ANC and ANC Youth League specifically, some of the comrades you've served with there. And I want to fashion my question in this format. What's your relationship with Vusi Mkhatshwa, Sasekani Manzini, Desmond Mwela, and who else?
Tim Mashele.
Tim Mashele. Those would have been your group of people you've served with in the ANC Youth League.
So Musa, I enjoy a very good relationship with all the people that you have mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't know whether all of them do enjoy a good relationship with me. And
Okay.
the reason is simple.
Yeah.
In the entire country, in this world, I don't have a single person that I'm not talking to. And I want to explain this in 1 minute. And the reason I do that is, and that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
You know, if me and you today would have an issue, and tomorrow you come across me and you still don't want to greet me, and you will always relive that experience,
Yeah.
right? They are my former comrades in the former movement. Indeed, I was suspended in the ANC Youth League. So I first lost my job when the MEC was now no longer made an MEC in 2014.
Yeah.
Right? And then
This will be which MEC?
MEC SPD Skosan.
Okay.
Right? And then I then went on, because at the time, you know, in my former organization, they had said, no, you are going to be a chief of staff working with Mayor Ngwenya.
Yeah.
In fact, the speech that Mayor Ngwenya would have written at the time, would have read at the time, we would have contributed. So
Yeah.
I volunteered, Musa. I'm sure I'm the only one in this province. I volunteered for 3 weeks with my own petrol and everything else at Nkangala district as a chief of staff without any appointment, because you know when you go to...
So this is Thomas Ngwenya now.
This is Thomas Ngwenya.
Yeah.
So I went in there to volunteer, and then, but because I was to be appointed, and suddenly a decision was that I shouldn't be appointed, right? And at the time, I obviously wouldn't want to go there because I think I'm at ease with the decisions that people would have taken. But I was then suspended in the ANC Youth League, my former movement, because there used to be they called it Islahla, where they were taking decisions.
Yeah.
And some of the decisions that would have been taken was that people would be instructed in terms of what needs to be happening, in terms of how the leadership should be. And obviously, as the young people at the time, we had a different view in terms of how we think that conference should go.
Yeah.
A conference of 2014, which was held in Emelo, not in Nkangala, losing that conference is what led to me basically contesting in that conference, because I led that campaign to contest in that conference. And immediately leaving that conference, I was fired from the job that I held, which I was at Emalahleni. It was a consulting work.
Yeah.
I was fired there, and then later on, I would be suspended in the ANC Youth League for wearing a T-shirt that was written sort of "Bring Back our Nkangala," something of that sort, you know. And then I think later on, I then wrote an apology, and then I was brought back in. And then I think the term ended, and then I went back home. But I do enjoy a good relationship with the comrades who presided over all the issues that I'm talking about. I do not like to pay much attention to it. I think it's issues of the past, yes, but that's what would have transpired.
Yeah. Talk to me how the concept of Delmas Fest came about. I mean, I know Victor Kanye. I mean, the issues are many there. But talk to me around what will have necessitated maybe the agency to formulate some sort of a platform that is called Delmas Fest. What is it about Victor Kanye that was not prioritized? Because my understanding is that when you say Delmas Fest, it's as if you are saying, look, put us first, put our interest at the forefront, because we deserve to come first before all these other things.
So what happens, Musa, is that I had left the town around 2022.
Yeah.
That was after the local government elections. I had led a very successful campaign for my former organization. And thereafter, I think around 2022, I had left the town. And the circumstances of obviously me leaving the town at the point, I always tell people that those who emerge in our communities, and maybe God and the ancestors, blesses them. And obviously the work, what we are today, is because of sacrifice. We do, probably need a bit of some appreciation. So I think I became an enemy of a number of my people, my former friends, precisely because of the things that I was sort of doing. And I decided, you know what, the town was sort of rejecting me, and I felt that let me leave. And I left the town. So when I was sitting, in Cape Town, and then I got a call. And the guy said, hey, we are coming together here, man. The roads are dilapidated. We thought, man, let's come together to see what we can be able to do the town. The first meeting that was held, I was not part of it, And then it was like a few guys who are in business and structures in the community. But they then said, no, we asked that you come back. And then I came back. When I came back in the second meeting, they sort of told me, look, this is the situation that we are in, and there's a challenge of water. But the intention was boycotting, not paying services, and a number of things. And we had a conversation, open conversation amongst ourselves. And part of the things I then said, look, let's look at what we have. For instance, my other friend happened to co-own a mining operation. I happened to participate in one. Somebody has got to have a TLP. We then said, you know what, maybe let's come together, utilize our resources. To try and help this government, because we understand that government has got limited resources. We engaged the municipality. So that's how the Delmas Fest thing really starts. So we started cleaning the streets, volunteers came in. I said, because I participate in the mining sector, set up a target that we want to plant about 10,000 trees. I bought the first 500 trees. And I think every tree that you see now that is growing. So we started sort of doing that. But whilst we were doing that, coming together, we sort of then had conversations. And we then said, what are the problems that we have as a town? And we realized that a lot of our companies had been closing down because of the instability in that town. A group of people would wake up in the morning, get on the back of the bakkie, close a company, demanding opportunities and what have you. You would always have that, right? But the other problem, you have a situation where the very same companies are not necessarily practically and meaningfully contributing to this community.
Sure.
But also you have high levels of unemployment, and we identified all these other problems that we are dealing with. And we said, let's try and come back with the solutions. And we said, look, maybe let's take an excursion to go and learn. That's why you would have seen us going, sort of out of the country. And then we then identified projects that we can sort of co-fund. So we came together, I think there was like about 50 of us, where we were sort of putting money, and we said, let's raise a fund where someone who gets an order in this town can be able to get funding without really having to pay sort of much interest. And I think we're keeping it at 5%. So we're able to have a fund of up to 5 million rand, and the entity, we called it Toro, but it expanded. What we started in Delmas expands. Yeah. So it expanded, other guys from the province sort of joined, and we said, part of the reason that you're unable to develop is that the financial services sector is still not transformed. So we said we want to have a Delmas cooperative bank, but we identified a couple of sort of factories. Now we're doing this obviously at an individual level,
Sure.
So we finance a couple of businesses. The sneaker I'm wearing, for instance, it's a local brand that came out of that, where we identified the local guys. And we said, we need to find a way that, regardless that we differ black and white and what have you, let's have a Delmas that would be developing. So we are putting Delmas first. I know the Delmas first, people said it's a radical word.
Sure.
We're not saying, hey, you're working here, you must always, No. What we're saying is that let's put Delmas first, regardless of our interest, regardless of our status, let's put Delmas first. Those that can be able to contribute meaningfully with their hands, let's do so. And I think that's where the concept of Delmas first comes about. And it's still there, Delmas Fest, and Delmas Fest, it is not a political organization. It will never become a political organization. If you go and look at it now, it's led by a person who comes from my former movement. On the first of the month, we provide soup and bread to the elderly, for that matter. We still continue to provide sanitary towels, and obviously those are some of those who have known me, Musa, and I'm deviating a bit just once. Those who have known me would tell you that from my early days, before 2010, I've always ran a campaign and protested that it will never make sense to me, not in a day, that you have a government, not only government, but a society that has accepted that a condom must be free and a sanitary towel should be bought. And I tell you of my interaction of the people about Mama was at dumping site, because a woman does not choose for that time of the month to come.
Sure.
To have sex, I understand HIV/AIDS has been there and all that, and I still think government should provide free condoms. But I would never understand why we are not arriving at a point where, as a country, all of us were raised by women, that sanitary towels should be provided for free. So part of the things that we do in our town, we ensure that we run that consistent program of sanitary towels. And that has been my personal project that I've always been. In closing, I've had, abo mama who pick up plastic at dumping site, and other, without making reference, in other areas. They don't afford a 30 rand to buy sanitary towels, and that is a campaign that I wish for women in this country, regardless of their political formation, regardless of their association, that one day we can arrive where not only we provide sanitary towels for free, we produce them and create employment out of that.
Yeah. Let's maybe move now to, because one thing that has been consistent, rather, that I've heard is you are somebody who has empathy. You're somebody that cares for people. You would not want to see fellow people struggle, and my research tells me that that would have been necessarily some of the things that will agitate people that did not resonate with your views in the ANC Youth League, because you've been one person who, when members in the ANC Youth League are booked somewhere, you say, no, let's fund them. Let's pay for their hotel. Let's pay for their what. Would you say these are things that got you in trouble? I mean, the establishment, as in the organization at the time, looked at you as a threat.
Yeah. Well, Musa, I did not want to go there, but let me go. Look, partly you are correct. Honestly, I grew up from a two-room shack, like I tell you. I'm raised by that community. I'm raised by, I didn't feel that I'm an orphan. And to be where I am, even when it's not Kaya, I would be helped by people. And I've always wanted to replicate that, right? So when you're a director at age 28 and you earn substantive amount of money, we get into a PC meeting, honestly, I say, when we are done here, we get into a Nando's, you buy people food. There's a program in Nkomazi, the car that we are in, Aislingani, there was a Pumzile and a few others, you organize transport. These are honest things that you do. I think there's accommodation where sometimes, and then you sort of chip in, you assist. And I think that would have been read as somebody who's doing these things because you are anticipating that you are wanting to be outshining people. And I would learn later on that that was not a good thing that I would have done at the time. And that may have contributed, of course. And that has happened, to this day in my hometown. When I come back and contribute and help people, Musa, I was accused of forming a political formation when I never had an interest of forming a political party. Even to this day, I don't have an interest of being the president. I don't have an interest of being spoken about. Our scene was that I took a decision that when you have a grader and a water bowser and they work for the entire month, why would a community struggle with a road that someone must die before the road can be graded? If I can be able to say once in a month, my friends, let's come together, let's grade the roads. And I've found myself where we are when I'm Musa, because people sort of feel threatened when you do these things. But let me tell you, I believe in God. And I always say every day when I wake up in the morning, I get into the shower. My shower is my war room, I pray.
Yeah.
And I always say, I believe that God blesses us so that we can be able to bless others. To this end, Musa, people who we hold different political views, would still be able to help them, right? So I've found myself, in a bit of an uncomfortable situations by the virtue of trying to assist and intervene. And maybe sometimes because people who help, sometimes people help with intentions, but when I did it then, I had no intentions, and I think I found myself in trouble. I always don't want to speak about it because it's a very emotional subject. Sure. But one thing for sure, I'm never stopping.
Yeah. Talk to me about how you then ended up at Mega. So when I was doing research, so I'm like, okay, so I'll be honest with you how my research goes. So my research tells me now, Thabo, at the time when he was in the ANC Youth League, these guys were there, and they were really not fond of him. I don't know how true that is. And then I looked at how you then get to be at Mega, and at the time, the purported MEC who's in that department appoints you, and then I'm like, but how is it possible? And then they were like, nah, maybe he was favored by the premier or whatever. But I want us to go to Mega. Talk to me why you resigned as a chair then.
Yeah, so Musa, after I had gone, and I remember I resigned, I denounced my membership when I was chair of Mega.
Yeah.
When they were going to the conference, and there were many issues at home, when after the local government elections, there was a clear path in terms of what needs to be done in the municipality. And we'll have that conversation another day. So, I then get to Dennis Maleleza, and because I was the provincial secretary of Sanko.
Yeah.
So Sanko then, because I think people get nominated, Sanko makes the submission, and I think the youth wing of my former organization, Thabo Dennis, they make the submission, and then I would be appointed at Mega. But now remember, I'm no longer that Thabo. I'm this Thabo now who obviously is an entrepreneur and what have you. And I enjoyed a good relationship when the MEC at the time, Vusi was there. We enjoyed a good relationship with the premier and everybody else. The good thing when I got to Mega, I enjoyed relations with, they would have their own factions, but I enjoyed a relationship with everybody. But me taking up the Mega nomination when I was put in, I was so excited, Musa, because I saw an opportunity to contribute at a larger scale. And part of the reason why I would have been identified, and one day, maybe your Pescat would do it for the first time, and if you do it post-elections.
Yeah.
So in my hometown, in some of my farms and what have you, we do our own bricks, now we do our own toilet paper. So if you want to look at it, if you go there, we sort of have, self-sustaining industrial sort of park that you want to sort of have.
Yeah.
And a lot of these former comrades would sort of come and say, but how are you doing this, So I sort of was excited because I would now contribute meaningfully in a large scale. And obviously getting into Mega, everybody thinks that Mega has got money. When you get there, there's nothing there. There is not even a budget of 20 million for funding, SMEs, the emerging, entrepreneurs and so forth and so forth. There's pretty much not. Look, Mega has got an important role to play in Mpumalanga, and I think it is a very important tool, because not only Mega should provide funding, but it also serves as a point of referral. So I get in there, but me exposed to artificial intelligence and what have you, get in the first meeting, obviously would not interfere with the administration. I've never participated in a tender. I've never been since I've been where I've been in government, But I then say, we want a meritocratic organization. This is how we are going to be running. We need to be giving direction. Mega can be a Mega that does not attend conferences. You go to the mining indaba, you don't find Mega. Mega should be a Mega that has an investment book. And I lay out, I think I've got a 20-point plan. And then I say, we're going to advertise that everybody who has got a project in a corner of this province would be able to put their project, so that an investor who sits somewhere in China when we go to a conference can be able to pick up these projects. And I had a whole range of other things. But most importantly, part of the things I lay out was, and I would set time frames, Musa. This is how I work. And that's why they say, why did you leave? I would set time frames that why would you have a young person in a corner in Mukondo should be able to have access to the DTIC, to the PIC, the biggest investment management fund in Africa, right, which is the PIC. A person in Mkondo, maybe they don't run a bigger project there. There's a young boy there, a young girl with an idea. And Mega's responsibility is creating an app. Sure. I went a step further. I said, look, part of my investments is in artificial intelligence and IT. I am offering that we develop an app because a Mega should be in every pocket and what have you. So when I then realized when you get there that, probably because how Mega would have had the people, the expertise really lacked the people that would have been there because other people would have been deployed from other areas and all that. And that I think was one of the major challenges. So we couldn't achieve, much of what we would have wanted to set up and push forward. Then Mega suddenly became a facilitator. The Premier's Fund was adjudicated. Mega does not do the Premier's Fund. The Premier's Fund is adjudicated in the Premier's office. Yeah. Mega only does the payments and all that. And looking into that and really with the time frames that were set, everything remained red. And I indicated to the colleagues to say, look, I wouldn't be part of this and continue to see it failing if we are unable to really, deliver. I'm one who wants to see results. But I think the biggest thing for me at Mega, I get into Mega and they're busy with a building. And that building, they were renting somewhere when they were renting.
Yeah, they were renting in town. I mean, I remember that.
And in the report, and I had read the report, and I'm asking here, the chair of the subcommittees then, and that, are we renting or are we renting to buy the building? And we're told that we're renting to buy the building at over some odd, the amount that would be there. But guess what? When MEC Maslela comes in, there's this development project that needs to happen there. And that project, it's where now, which is what we're saying, the DFIs can come here. Yeah. The people of PNR can come and get PIC here, right? And that project was coming. But then it happens that we are told that the landlord is now saying, these people must rent from the landlord and so forth and so forth. And I then pick an issue. Then MEC asked me, but didn't you say you are renting to buy? Yeah. And then I realized that, no. They then say no. In the resolution, and I was part of the resolution. In the resolution, we would have agreed to this lease and whatever. And I say, this is not what we have agreed to. Go and check the transcripts and what have you, right? That is one issue. Then there would have been another issue where there was just an appointment, and I felt this is incorrect. Not in accordance with the PFMA. We don't want to interfere. And I came back and I got to the meeting without consulting everybody, and I said, who is responsible for this? And CEO said, and I said, let's agree that someone has got to go. And everybody else then did not agree. Then the NGO did not agree with how we want things to be done. But I sense that there was a lot of things that were going wrong. I don't want to call people corrupt, but there was a lot of things that were going wrong. That building issue for me was sort of an issue. And I said, not in our name. Being a director there, not only, that's why I never attended many meetings. Because when you are a chair, you are simply there to give a strategic direction of the organization. Sure. But a tendency with the boards in the province and many other state entities, it is deployment tools. That's why when they are set a budget, meetings must be called all the time so that there is some sort of, and that is why we find ourselves failing. So I then realized I couldn't sort of align with what was there. I couldn't align really with what was going on there. And I can tell you, an issue that I felt that did not follow a proper PFMA and all that, and I felt that this I can't associate with, because you may be declared a delinquent director. Sure. Right? I've got a big vision for my small town and this province. In another podcast, I'll tell you that we're going to end with a smart city. And we're on a right path. So I wouldn't afford to be declared a delinquent. I would not have an opportunity to say, I said this in the meeting and who said this. At the time, I'll be declared delinquent, but this. So I just couldn't associate with that.
I almost say the SDP is a party of smart cities, because, I mean, we'll get into that in a few. I just want us to exhaust this part because it's one particular conversation I never really grapple with to understand why would an entity rent and then abruptly leave in the middle of obviously the lease that was there, and then you are so comfortable with the fact that no, we are no longer there, but we don't mind servicing, the rent. Because I remember when Mega moved from where they were into this, I mean, I think they paid almost rental for a year where they were, but yet occupying another building, but also paying rent. For me, it really boggled me as to maybe the decision making, was it done, you know, in a way that it favors obviously the developers there, or was there an interest, or that place got to be small and you want, for me it never really made sense. But maybe that you're here as a former chair, maybe you can just unpack it for me, just not telling on whose responsibility it was, but just collectively as an organization, how did you look into that? Because I felt that was somewhat of an oversight from the entity.
Look, I think when I got in there, we arrived when those things were sort of done. They were done by the previous board, you know. And I think that's where we only came in at the point where we said, are we obviously renting or buying where we are? And we understood that it was a rent to buy, right? And look, that transaction does not look right. That's why I don't want to cast aspersions. And this is what is ever wrong with sometimes entities, and to a larger extent some government agencies in the country, because you can understand the amount of money. I'm not going to mention the rands here, but it's quite a lot of money.
It was a lot.
One particular issue that sort of I think ticked me was within that rental, when there was no load shedding, if rent was 1 rand, Musa, rent comes in a report that you are reading, rent is 1.70 rand. Now the explanation is that there was load shedding. And then I look at it, because maybe I was not around. Then I look at it, but there was no load shedding. But there's a good 700 some odd there. So not only that, so I think everything was wrong there. Probably the intention was good, but surely something did not go right there.
Oh, Chair. Oh, I'm calling you Chair now as a basis of Mega. But please, just say, how much were you paying there? How much was Mega paying there at Absa Square?
Well, I don't know. I don't have the numbers in my head, right? Look, I don't have the numbers in my head, but what I can tell you is that you are likely paying higher than what you would have been paying. The point I was making was on what you are paying here, what you would have been paying, you are paying 1 rand a month, and then somewhere in between, you just pay 1.70 rand. That's what I'm simply saying.
Sure.
What
do you make of the contribution of the boards in the province? I know that it's not something you want to talk about much, but I mean, I look at the board you served with. There's been critics around deploying politicians into boards. Do you think that we should bar politicians from, interacting in the spaces of board? Because I look at your board, you had Dainapulu, you had Zwelo, who were prominent politicians at the time. And you were not too much associated as being a politician because of your acumen in business. But people looked at it, I mean, there were other politicians in that board as well. But you look at those particular people I'm singling out, people felt, these boards are full of politicians.
One thing about me, Musa, I don't lie. Right? My CV, what I'm doing qualifies me to be there. But another contributor would have been, I was the provincial secretary of SANCO, which would have been in alliance. And that's a contributor, right? And that needs to be re-looked at. The issue of deploying politicians, not only with the boards, almost everywhere. It is good, it's fair enough if somebody is a member of this organization and they've got the necessary skills and requisites. But, if you look at all the boards, you find formers. You want to find former MSCs, former chairs, former and all that. And these boards are supposed to be, this board, the entity which I'm coming from, should be responsible for investment attraction It's practically investment responsible for investment attraction in this province, ensuring that unemployment is reduced and so forth and so forth. So you can understand, and there is no board, whether it's MRTT or whatever, there is no board that has less significant role to play. There are good politicians that would have been deployed, that would have been put in those places, that would have played a role. But I would really say, you would want to look at a bureaucratic way of looking at appointing people really, on merits, not by association to political organizations, not by association of where they are. Because they take somebody who was just you used to chair subcommittees in your organization, when there are subcommittees, we're discussing things there.
Yeah.
So we say, Mchana is good with economics.
Yeah,
we must give him this thing. So it's a bit problematic.
SDP. Many are saying you were pushed out, hence you started SDP. Talk to us about the formation of SDP. How does it come about? I mean, why start a political party?
So I was never pushed out. I willingly resigned in 2022. And I always don't tell my reasons for resigning, but those who live in my small town, I've always told them even here that it had everything to do with, we put a fierce fight towards 2021. And we agreed there was everything wrong. The securities in the municipality, you had 10, 14 were overbuilt. You had the toilets, ablution facilities in Mandela, where there are 300, 500 are being built. The municipality was literally run down. And those that we went on to knock and tell people that we are supporting them, and they occupied and they continued with everything that was wrong. They continued from everything that would have been wrong. And that's why my resignation did not last long, because just before the elections, we would have agreed in terms of how as a town, let alone my former organization, but how as a town we're coming together, we want to see the town. And I take a decision to sort of resign, because my former organization at the time, when you engage before the elections, it's all good. But after the elections, there is nothing that is ought to be done. You seek support, decisions, you wait that decisions have got to be taken, and they are never taken. So I was never angry when leaving. I left politics. I had actually, Musa, taken a decision to retire at 35, 36, and I had said it's enough, and that's why I would have also left the town. But like I told you, the story of coming back into the town now. So SDP, first, it was around, what year is it? 2025 now? 2026?
Yeah, now it's 6.
Yeah, last year. So what happened was, with all the efforts that we were trying to do as people across political parties and all that, we reached out to almost all existing political parties, and obviously the governing party in our case. We would have reached out to them because of the challenges that we would have had. The lack of investor confidence, that would be the abuse that we suffer, the poverty and many other things, right? But we did not find joy, right? And we sort of realized that we are not finding joy. We're trying to engage these people, and they are sort of not willing. But we also realize that a lot of the decisions are taken at the government level, and the decisions that would have been taken affect all of us. And we then took a decision there that, maybe let's sort of then come together. It was never my idea really, and the people said, maybe it's about time now that let's form our own thing, so that come the next elections, with the vision that you have been sharing, that we want to build a smart city, want to end employment, manufacturing, and all these other projects that we are saying we are wanting to be doing. Maybe we would be able to have a say where we will have a local government that will create a conducive environment for business to thrive, so that employment can be created, so that NGOs can benefit, and so forth and so forth. And so we sort of said that, then came together and sort of brainstormed, and then it was the people of the church. So here you would have been approached by people of the church, pastors, traditional healers, chiefs, to the extent that we even went to see, kings and so forth and so forth. So consulted broadly, people with living with disabilities. And I think out of that consultation, we sort of agreed that let's have our own political organization. And the reason for that, part of what we were discovering is that all other political parties that were existing, now it's people of Delmas talking to themselves, that these parties are existing, but for decisions to be made are not made in the interest of Delmas. For a decision to be made, it will take months for a decision to be made, because a structure must sit and another structure must sit, recommend to another structure, right? And that became an issue. And sometimes the decisions that are taken by these people who have no knowledge of how Delmas is are not in the best interest of, sort of Delmas. And then we also looked at the challenges that are there, from unemployment, the dilapidating state, and our efforts were not appreciated. And we then said, let's form an organization. And then I think after consulting, we thought about the names, and we came with the name. We registered under a different name. But when I left the country and I came back, and remember, I was not the one who was even registering it. So the guys who had come together, they sort of registered. And when it was now registered, when I came back, another leader left their own political party. They suddenly formed a political party. But they used the same name that as the one that we had already registered. Right? So we had Maibuye People's Movement. And suddenly we came back, there was another Maibuye. And they sort of called me, the Bafundis and everybody, and said, hey, what do we do now? We sort of sat back and we said, but why did we come together? We came together because we said, we want to improve service delivery, regardless of our ideology, regardless of our differences and all that. And we sort of come to an agreement that let's call it service delivery. And I then sit around and said, but what could be the logo? Because all these logos, you would have Amandla, you would have all that. And we then said, look, what unites us as South African? We said, it's a South African flag, but where do we want to go? We said, the end goal is a state of service delivery that is at this point. This is the end point that we are wanting to be going to. And that's when you then had a logo which represents the South African colors. And when you read it, the colors are red, exactly how you would read the South African flag. So that's how Service Delivery Party really came about in Delma. So we're saying, hey, let's have this organization. But whilst we're doing that work, before we could even finish, guys like Gracious, Mukabai, and a couple of others then reached out. Guys from Kwandebele.
Because Gracious would come from Goven.
Kabai
would come from Malahleni.
Yes.
Yeah, and
remember,
Ndebele and all these
guys would have also tried to do their own township fest kind of things. That's why they would sometimes create a confusion.
Sure.
But the same frustrations that they had, it is the same frustrations that we would have had.
Sure.
Right? And they then said, hey, we see now that you are moving, can we come in? So we used to sit, myself, Gracious, and a couple of others, and sort of came together and we said, you know what, this thing is not a Delmas thing. Let's go broadly now and consult, because people are now calling us and say, but we want to hear what you are saying. We think that this can be a solution. And then, but critically, Musa, when we said, remember I said to you about the hierarchy and the vertical decision making.
Sure.
We then said, but whilst we are complaining about this, what are the other challenges? One of the challenges is that political parties are centralized around a leader. I don't want to be the president of Service Delivery Party. I'm not the president of Service Delivery Party. And we then said, this is what the people said. The people said, and everybody were consulting, let's form an organization. Let's form an organization that will be coordinated by coordinating committees. Run away from the issue of having these structures that a decision would have to be made in Delmas. We appreciate you came with an idea in Delmas, but what we want to have, we hear you. In Emalahleni, we are better suited and we better know the issues of Emalahleni. We may rope in your expertise. You are maybe better understanding the economy, the mining sector. You may be able, you have already established manufacturing factories. You can be able maybe to help us how we do that. But we would want to, as people of Emalahleni, converse amongst ourselves, agree, have a consensus in terms of who are the people that are going to represent us in government. And when we win with the numbers, agree as a people in terms of who should lead and occupy, the positions in government and so forth and so forth. So the formation of SDP and the structuring of SDP is very important because the people said, let's have coordinating committees. So we are coordinating ourselves. We have a federal approach. We obviously have principles. We have an appreciation that South Africa, we come from a painful past of apartheid. We have an appreciation that there is a need for radical economic transformation. And before we conclude, ask me, because I can clarify properly in terms of what I mean. But there is a need. We have an appreciation for that. Yeah. We are sympathetic to the people of Palestine. We are sympathetic to many other issues. We do have ideologies and views. But we then said, people are saying, you know what? With all these things that we have, it is about time that we now need to come together. It is about time that we need to go to the people who are not traditional politicians. So you would have seen that when we began a service delivery party, it would have been professionals. It would have been business people. At some point, we were called a party of business people. Yeah. It would have been pastors. It would have been ordinary people that are coming together. So that's how we come about to have service delivery party. Then it grew. Then we said to the people of Mpumalanga, because we are registered in the province, we then said, anyone in their community, for as long as there is consensus, you can come and access service delivery party. For as long as you agree to the constitution, for as long as you agree that it is not you are not going to be the coordinator today, and come 10 years from now, it's only you who's the coordinator. People have said to us, Musa, next year they don't want to see me leading the party. They said next year we may want to see a Mandla Jeffrey Msibi who leads the party. But they've also said we want to see the following year, or in a fashion that leadership would be able to circulate in the organization.
It's a view that they're endorsing to say, we are comfortable changing leaders every year as long as they sell the vision in that year. We walk with that vision.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
See. Very interesting.
So, and the issue of that. No one is above everybody. Yeah. What we are simply doing here, I'm the national coordinator, a person who has always funded the party. You have got a national convener, you have got a coordinating secretary. And we are careful. We may not be forced to end up having a president. But when we were consulting, for instance, we had given autonomy. And it's the people who came back to us and said, hey, but when you say autonomy, as a people who sometimes we don't necessarily agree, maybe agree to a decentralized approach, where a decision that people take in a ward, in Dr. Jason Rocker, for as long as there is a representation and consultation with the national coordinating team, that decision is binding to the structures. So it is not the other way around, it is the other way around. The only time we would be going in, it's when obviously there would be issues that we are going in to be intervening. Sure. Lastly, obviously, SDP has now grown, throughout the country. Yeah, and obviously, on that. Yes, it has obviously grown throughout the country, but we are not fixated about leadership. The other fiefdom accuses the other one of being a fiefdom. I was telling my friend the other day, I'm saying, hey, this thing of being called president is nice, man. You may end up wanting, but the reality, this is what, the day SDP would not be SDP. It is when we are going to change what people are saying. People may convene and say, oh, look, we want a certain leader to stay for the next 3 years. Yeah. People may resolve. But at the moment, this is what the people have said, and that is what we are executing as service delivery party.
I see. There's an interesting name you brought in, Mandla Jeffrey Msibi. I wanna quickly deal with that one before we wrap up. So he resigns from the ANC.
Yes.
I've since heard his views about why he resigned. He felt he would have contributed enough, and he was fine with that. He wanted another challenge in his life, and then he joins the service delivery party. But there's something that he's told us. In fact, he told us as a podcast that you would have been luring him to join, because he says you and Leon approached him almost a couple of years back and said, look, what is your view on this? He says, had you guys came to him in the process of registering, you would have discouraged him.
Yes.
But he says you guys came to him when you were already established now, and he said, "Look, we've started this thing. What is your view?" And he says he asked you to give him your founding statements, your constitutions, and what really makes you as a party. Talk to me about what did you see in him that you thought, if this guy could join us? Yeah.
I think the results are speaking for themselves.
Okay.
But Mandla can read as well. Well, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I said even this in our last meeting that, if you were to listen to the media, not necessarily the media per se, if you were to read what would have been written on the media, you would read social media, you would have a totally different perception of what Mandla is. Until uhlale naye, I didn't know the level of education that he would have had. But so what happens is that, remember last year, like I told you, it started. So this year we come on the 10th, we call a meeting. And in that meeting we're just, because people were now pushing, Koknompi, may her soul rest in peace. One of the people who were pushing us, like old women in my township, they were pushing us, hey, where is this thing? So we sort of were going to brief them that we now have a certificate.
Yeah.
But that meeting had so many people, we were overwhelmed. We ended up announcing that we are now service delivery party. Precisely because we're not announcing Musa, because as I'm talking to you, there are people who are being suspended for being members of service delivery party in respective municipalities. There are people who are being threatened. There's a whole range of other factors.
Yeah.
So we had to calculate, because we were a victim of that for holding a different view. So we wanted to time it properly, but the announcement happened by its. Now that it happens, you realize ufuna uphuta omdala.
Yeah.
Ozokhona ukuthi akululeke ukuthi hey le ndlela esihambayo, and this thing now blows out, yabona. And then we identify, and then we look around. I mean, Mandla has been one person who has always supported us. He's been very fond of us. In fact, when we left our former movement, he would have been worried. He loved my former movement, with everything that we had. So, us reaching out, to him was, amongst others, to one, consult, but also to share with him that we have identified, we have found the last possible practical dimension in South African politics for representation. And what we are doing is that we are reaching out to people like himself, one, for guidance. Obviously, we understand that he remains a member of our organization, of our former organization.
Yeah.
But we understand that bus is parked. And we understand that bus is parked and it's never going to move.
No. I want us to fully understand that, because I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
What do you mean that bus had parked? It was at the time when...
No. If I'm saying the bus is parked,
okay,
I'm saying part of us would have left.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? Yes. So that's why.
So the bus had parked for you guys.
Yes.
At the time, not for him, because
Yeah.
he was fully active in the ANC at the time. I mean, he was still the treasurer.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what we were sort of showing him was to say where the South African politics are going.
Yeah.
And we were reaching out to him to show him the bigger picture that we see. That Mpumalanga has 5.4 million people, and this is us talking to him.
Sure.
And because remember, he has run elections. This guy, I don't think you would see our documents when they're coming out now.
Okay.
So we're reaching out to him. We're telling him what he knows. But remember, when you are inside sometimes the organization, the amehlo bona ngawo and the other person abona ngawo ngaphandle bebahlukile. So we're reaching out to say, hey, Puti, look, this is an organization. We want a bit of some guidance, and this is where we are. But we would like for you to participate in this organization. You can go and look at the performance of the elections, but you can also go and look at how Mandla has contributed to his community. I equate him to one leader who used to love his people. They say, even in the Free State, when you go and find him, you still find him staying with his people. He has every trait of a leader that you need. And I think you are reading, he's a serious threat. So let's reach out to him.
I trying to visualize a threat.
When we go there, and then he says to us, hey, Bafana Bagit, lento yenu say registered. We say, yeah. He says, yeah. If we figure, and that would have been about 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
We engaged him this year. And then he says, even figure lento ninga register, I would say, ninga register. I'm still sitting comfortably in my former movement. We're saying, but put it consider. No, we're pestering him.
Yeah.
No, we're on his neck. But one thing, take nothing from him. He was able to give us support, not for the political party, but he was able to give us support and give us guidance and show us how to, navigate, sort of as into one. And, certain things that we would have sort of overlooked. So I would tell you that he contributed, meaningfully. Not because he was contributing that he even refused. We said, in fact, when we went to him, said, hey, Chief, this thing is here now. Tina, you know us, Tina, we're business people, we love our community, we like giving to our community. This is who we are. We're actually identifying you that you must come and lead this thing. And he said, and then he refused. So I think time went on, and then obviously you would know the events, going to the conference. But obviously going to the conference, the discussions were already going. I think but they were standing, saying, no, some were already talking to them.
Sure.
So I think immediately after that, we then reached out, the conversation went on. So he had then said, in fact, when he left his former organization, that he is retiring. He's going to work for
He told me the same.
And we said, but we could then convince, because Abafuki could read the documents. And they said, hey, but we then said, well, when Abafuki now they are here, we said, we must recruit everybody around the front man. And then we went together, we understand, man. Look, I also understand the scars that you would have when you serve your community.
Sure.
Right? And I understand, and that's why we've got to protect him, we've got to support him. We went to take him out of retirement and said, hey, we are when I'm afraid. So we came back, we then said, hey, but now, manje, please assist here. He still refused. We then said, okay, eventually we reached an agreement, said, consider, but many other people were now talking to him. No, all parties that you can think about.
Jeez.
They were talking to him. People who never thought there was Pinar, they knew what Pinar was. And then
there was a point where I am reliably informed that even Action SA reached out to him.
Well, I wouldn't speak about other organizations, but what I can tell you is that almost everybody, and some were lucrative. So
jeez.
His decision was never about anger. It's someone who was angered. It was not he was sitting at home. Even now when we went, we then said, Deputy, come and lead this thing. He said, Bafanabagit, you founded this thing. I appreciate that you say I've got experience and what have you. I'm now ready to join you, but I'm not prepared to lead. It is only fair that you have founded it. I will be able to give you guidance where we are. And we went and we said, ordinary member. Let's look at the structure. I said, we spoke, we then consulted, and the chief. Remember, also with Mandla, the other pressure that we got even when he had left, they put, when you park here at the garage, the people here at the garage, it is I'm telling you, I was at this one hotel which I would not mention. So, because it's mobilized, people are now associating the organization. But here AMC. Good. So eventually Puti comes in, and then we then say, ordinary member. Ordinary member. Then we see it. The NCC says, no, okay, he doesn't want to be, we don't have a position of a president. Okay, you remain national coordinator. Let's have a convener here. That's why in the many interviews, in the many programs, you're going to see him more than the national coordinator. So that's how we're structured. You have the national coordinator who founds the party, you have the convener, you have the coordinating secretary who is there, But we went to him because of the experience that he would have had, and he has contributed immensely. You can look at people that we never thought that were going to be coming. He's coming in, our numbers ballooned.
What's the current membership now?
We have surpassed 200,000 now.
Jeez.
We have surpassed 200,000 now. I would just check what the statistics are.
Yeah.
But we have surpassed 200,000. He is joining at quite a sizable. So, I mean, you can see the level of influence that he had. And not coming alone, coming with associations and so forth and so forth.
I've asked him about whether he is the candidate for SDP for the city of Mbombela. I'm still not clear as to what his response was. He is.
He is. Now, so it was not us again. Tina were just people coordinating committees. I would not mention the churches, I would not mention the associations. We've had about Putabatala from here who have been engaging us. You know, Abo Koko who had engaged us. And it was not his decision. By the way, we had to beg him for that. And he accepted, right? Yeah, he accepted. He accepted.
So you already have a mayoral candidate?
We have a mayoral candidate in the city of Mbombela who is Mandla Jeffrey Msibi, who will get the more than 100,000 votes required. We are mindful that in 2021, in this city, those who are governing this city with a measly 82,000 votes, when eligible people to vote in this city are 600,000 people. And only 82,000. And this is the picture, Fuki. We are going far with Commander Msibi. The province has a total population of 5.4, and I can tell you it's almost going to 6 if you count other factors. You have 3.7 million people who are eligible to vote in this province. Registered population is about 2.1 million. In 2021, the population that voted in this province is about 800,000 people. And those who are governing the province in 2021 were governing the province with only 460,000 votes. Independents got 47,000 votes. In 2024, 1.1 million people voted, and those who are governing the province with 598,000, who are already at 200,000. And I can tell you today, if you look at the composition of the legislature, and this is what I always tell people, that the composition of the legislature, you've got the lowest party there with about less than 6,000 seats.
That's Action SA and
that has got a seat there.
Sure.
The opposition in this province has got 199,000 votes. We're at 200,000 votes now, and they occupy 9 seats in this province. But interestingly, part of what SDP is, we are educating communities, associations, churches, and everybody else, that in this province, dominantly, it is an average of 1,500 for one to be a ward councillor.
True.
For proportional representation, you will be shocked. The other day I told you, it's a 247 votes. One is a proportional. It's a peer councillor.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is that we're educating people, because it is important that the majority of people who are not voting begin to vote. This vote is important. These elections are very much important, so that we can undo the wrongs that are there.
Yeah.
So that we can, obviously I know you're going to ask me about the...
No, I want to go there now, simply because I want to understand, if one were to decide to vote for the SDP, what are you offering different in municipalities? Because you look at the composition of the current establishments. Earlier on, you and I touched on how councils of municipalities have robbed communities, in a sense that when the social labor plans are derived and submitted to councils for them to approve and adopt to the IDP, obviously there's shenanigans that happens. Mining companies continually get licenses and renewal of their operating licenses, but communities don't benefit. You've got IDP projects that municipalities would go to communities and shove their ideas down the throat of the community, whereas the community is, no, but we want a clinic here, not a hall. Those type of things. Give us a sense of what would be the SDP somewhat proposition ahead of the local government election. I know maybe you could not have set as a structure to formulate maybe your manifesto and all of those, but kind of give us a sense of where you are in terms of your headspace.
Yes, we are still consulting broadly, Musa, in terms of our manifesto. I think we should be, in the coming weeks or so, pretty much have a draft. But what kind of municipality would be a service delivery party municipality? Priority, Musa, is merits and employing and in this electing people who are one capable. Because part of the failures, and I'm not going to go there, part of the failures is that me and you, what we spoke about, is that how many times have you seen councillors when a decision has been taken and they are told that this was a decision of council and they get surprised,
It's
and that happens a lot.
a lot.
That happens a lot.
A lot.
Right? So the priority here, that is why we're saying people choose your people. Now people know the people who are capable in their respective areas. That is priority number one. But the other issue, Musa, the issue of outsourcing is problematic. I know SDP has not pronounced itself, but majority of building local capacity within municipalities. And that is important, Musa. And I still need to be explained and understood why you would have, contractors, for instance, painting, because, and I will tell you what business is on another day. Why would we have a contractor for the painting of a municipal road that the cost is so ballooned that when the service provider is actually the service that they are providing, it is 3-4 times therefore. So the other critical element of a service delivery party government is to look at the services that are practical, that can obviously be insourced by municipalities, and that will reduce a degree of corruption. But amongst other issues, Musa, it is the issue of transparency. It is my expectation that a service delivery government where service delivery participates, we should, like national government and others do, in a transparent way, be able to say in the last 5 years, who has been supplying tie packs here? Because the problem, who has been supplying safety boots here? It's publication in respect of the POPI Act and all that. How possible is it, Musa, that a person is always able to get the price right? So the service delivery party government that you ought to have, you would need to have a transparent and to a certain degree remove the human element. And I've always said to people, don't support us because you want tenders. You may be disappointed. Tenders only for yourselves. If an opportunity arises, a person who does not know Thabo Motau as a leader of SDP should have a right. And for that to happen, I personally do believe that at some point you need to remove the human element, such that it happens in the private sector, that when bids are submitted, there is no human element. It closes at a particular time. Dominantly in municipalities in the country, it is deliberate that there's always a human element in the supply chain offices, so that our peers and our friends can, because when you have submitted and then Fuki submits, then you will be told the other fellow that, hey, Fuki has submitted so much a price. So that element of removing the human element there. But also the service delivery party governments that we want to build. It's parties that creates a conducive environment for investment, but also prioritizing local people. I have got an appreciation. Let's go to the city of Mbombela. I don't know how the management looks like, but you may find that you will struggle to find local people. And in the same way, we have got a view around the township economy that the undocumented and the other ones should not participate, certain sectors must be reserved. We have a view around municipalities. There is no logic that when you have advertised as a municipality that you are looking for a driver's license and a matric, that you have advertised in Mbombela. Are you telling me that we have someone here who has a matric and a driver's license, who has a diploma in human resources? Are you telling me that person drove all the way and drives all the way from Delmas to come to Mbombela because they were the best? Are you telling me that the people of Mbombela, they are not people who have got qualifications to be able to occupy such? Amongst other, we're not creating a regionalistic municipalities, but what we are simply saying, is that full appreciation, because you find these things happening that because these deployments that are this one we can even take and put there. But on the investment element, companies, you can go to various municipalities. The support, and because of the level of information that those who are in the employ have, the support that those who invest in our municipalities get is really minimal. But also, show me where the MFMA say you must put a prescription that when you get a tender of supplying toilet papers here, you must procure them locally. So a service delivery local municipality, number one, I'm yet to see. We will not have a single shop that is not rezoned, owned by foreign nationals. We will not have it. Precisely because laws are being broken. God knows, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. The very fact that they are operating in a container, there is no container in a service delivery party government that must operate. And that is the service delivery party local government that you want to have. But most importantly, and I always make this example, that Musa, in my hometown, I have boys who are doing toilet paper, I have guys who are doing water, I have guys who are doing bread. The service delivery government that we want to build was saying we must consume what we produce locally. These dominant shops and containers that are in our townships, they don't buy from our local people who are producing. The bread that all of us ate here this morning, you may find that it was not made by our people. In our township, it is even worse. But most importantly, Musa, the local government that is going to be led by a service delivery party would be able to say industrial parks are a priority. As you set aside, we know municipality does not have money, but these SLPs, leave the SLPs from Bombela, because I hear they say, but how are you going to do it in Bombela? There is no money. There is money in Bombela. The corporate social investment of Bombela runs into billions.
True.
And the first council sitting that will be presided over by the speaker and with Mandla as the mayor would resolve on the approach how corporate social investment must be done. I can tell you today, show me a municipality, service delivery party municipality will do, that has taken a company that turns over 50 million, the one that does business with the municipality, to the BE commission, that this guy here, he was doing a road of 50 million. He turns over 100 million, but he has not left bursaries. That is not being done because of corruption, the biggest cancer. So we don't have all the solutions, Musa, but we want to run practical governments. In closing on this subject, I do believe that I spoke to you about the issue of radical economic transformation. And when we speak radical economic transformation, people always speak about, there's two components. There's a structural element, there is a component of patterns of ownership. And people, when they speak radical economic transformation, to them it means just the patterns of ownership that Thabo alone must now begin to own. There's a bigger conversation that we must have, and municipalities should play an important role. That the structure of our economy remains that of a consuming economy from the global economy, right? That the structure of our economy remains that of an economy that continues to produce raw materials. In this subject, this is what I want to say to you. The camera that I'm looking at now, the clothes that me and you are wearing, the mics that we are using, everything else, you may even find to extend that some of the tiles, the furniture, and almost everything, 95% of what is in this room, it is not produced in this country, right? What therefore that means, it means you need to have a radical shift in terms of our local economies and municipalities beginning to embrace these economic hubs, these manufacturing hubs, so that we can be able to create employment. That when you are going to build a road in Pinar, you are going to have a brick manufacturing machine that will arrive 6 months before, because entrepreneurs there understand, supported that we are coming there. There is no need for a truck to drive with a load full of bricks, because SAPS can be able to, they've got sand there. they've got sand. All they need is that machine that will be able to produce the bricks. So that is the kind of service delivery party government that you're going to have. Obviously, you do have other factors, and other factors relate to the ability of municipalities to build properly.
Sure.
There is artificial intelligence today, my brother. When I was coming here, I was talking to somebody. I stood in one machine in one conference I recently attended. That machine tells me the circumference of my neck and all that. The application of technology, and with that being said, we need to be training our people to be able to understand and utilize this technology. We can't be sitting today and still speaking about the correct and incorrect billing. Can I tell you what happens in municipalities? That Abokoko continues to pay in services, but businesses are left, right, and center. So the kind of service delivery party government that we want to have a practical government, a simple government, where the community themselves are invited. The local government, I said to you, it is underfunded, right? You are not going to solve all the problems, but we need to have government that openly embraces NGOs like your Delmas Fest, be it is AfriForum, be it is everybody else. All organizations that exist, foundations that exist, for as long as we can be able to put cameras, that we create safer spaces, those are the kind of propositions that we are putting forward. Yeah. We understand that the councils, when they sit, they must be able to resolve that. We are lobbying national government to resolve that unemployment is an emergency and is a crisis. Sure. And certain sectors, a resolution of council in Victor Kanye, a resolution of council in Mbombela, and will lobby others. That national government resolve that we have got a crisis here. We are the most unequal country. We are second to Zimbabwe in terms of, second to Swaziland in terms of unemployment. You cannot have somebody who does panel beating when our local people can be trained here. And I think that's the kind of, obviously, Service Delivery Party will come with a manifesto that will obviously encompass all issues around issues of safety and all that. And my contribution would be a contribution along those lines. And that is the kind of Service Delivery Party government we hope to bring to South Africans and to the people of Mpumalanga.
Thabo, it goes without saying, my brother, thank you so much for coming, but I wouldn't leave you because you see, there's something that keeps on dawning in my mind. When I look at how you give utterance of what the party seeks to achieve, Victor Kanye plays a sacrosanct part, city of Mbombela. One wonders, I know that you are contesting the province-wide, but there are specific municipalities you'd like to win. Correct me if I'm mistaken. Mbombela, Victor Kanye, Malahleni, Gombe, and Bay. And to a large extent, Steve Tshwete, because I started hearing that you are prominent there as well. So would I be wrong to sum it up like that?
Maybe in addition to that, look, our intention is to win all the municipalities, but we are practical. We know that we are not going to win all the municipalities. And somebody sits here and say, we run a party, we must say we are going to win. We're not going to win all the municipalities. But Dipalising, we're going to win that municipality. And when we win Dipalising, we're going to allow the people of Dipalising to go to Gauteng. Because the people of Dipalising are suffering today. They've got public transport to Gauteng. The only reason they're in the province is because of another organization's political party structural arrangements, right? I wouldn't want to go there. So, yes, you may have Victor Kanye, Malahleni, the ones that you have mentioned. And obviously, these are strategic municipalities in the province. To a larger extent, they drive, the economy of the province. But we do have an interest in winning a sizable number of seats in all these other municipalities. In fact, where I'm looking at it, majority of the municipalities, I don't see a municipality where you will have my former movement leading outrightly, coming to these local government elections. So it is our intention, where we are not governing outrightly, we are going to be part of government and obviously advocate for these policies that we obviously want to put in place. But primarily, Victor Kanye, Mbombela, and the ones you are mentioning are so important because we would be able to demonstrate practically what do we mean by a service delivery government. 36 months to the national elections.
This is my last question then to you. In view of whatever you've said now, and I'm happy that you appreciate that you are going to contest all these municipalities, primarily the ones that you want to have dominance in. And as a result, there could be then what we call a hung council. Which are parties that you are not willing to negotiate with? Because you and I know that for you to form government in a hung council, be it to have the troika, the oversight committees, you would then still need to somewhat agree with certain political parties. Which are some of those parties are you not willing to engage on? And then which are those that you are somewhat, open to discuss with, maybe as a party? Sure.
I'm sure when you take this with Mandla, you will have a coherent answer, would have a position. But I can almost tell you in our conversations that we are having, and if you look at the founding documents of the Service Delivery Party, there is not a political party that we are not going to work with in South Africa, precisely because our interests are interests of our communities there, right? Rightly, when we started here, I indicated that we may be holding within here. You've got somebody who is a liberal, you've got somebody who is a leftist, and what have you. So we wouldn't want, because this is what has delayed us. It is the same thing that if you see some of us who have come together today, we are working with people that we never agreed with. But because we have realized that I'm 40, Musa now, we have realized that we no longer have time. We owe it to the coming generations that we have got to service our communities. So a pronunciation, I think Service Delivery Party will be irresponsible if it says we will not work with so and so. It is our view. If for instance, you have an organization that has got one seat, and you have an organization that is running short of 2 seats, and SDP is part there, are we really saying because this guy is an economist, or this guy is capable, he has got experience, he's been in council, or this guy has got knowledge in certain areas, by virtue of them being elected, being in council, it does qualify them that they may be MMCs. It is my view for the people of Victor Kanye that post-elections, those who would have lost, because in any case they're going to lose there, there's no question about it. Those who would have lost and those who would have won, it is our view that we should be able to come under one roof and say, all of you who have been jumping up and down, this country delays because we have an opportunity to resolve and take resolutions that must help this country. But because it is seen that no, we must not associate with party X. So it is our view that regardless of the political views, like how you see March and March where people are going in numbers, like how you see people where they agree, let's come together regardless of who would have won. So I don't necessarily think that there's a person that we say we're not going to work with. We are not a proxy of anybody. We are not heavily funded from anywhere.
I hear that you are funded though.
We are not heavily funded, I can tell you. I mean, they look into our books. That's why we are running the way we are running. We'll not speak about it now. And we're not angry at them. Yesterday I spoke to one leader. I said we're not angry. Just before the Service Delivery Party, we never had the problems that we're having. And the people, the problems that they're facing, they're embracing them. So we are not heavily funded. We are funded by our members, our associates and people that we obviously would work with. Yeah. We do reach out to people. You will see just now we're going to be releasing a QR code for our members to be able to contribute. There is no one that is people who give money, sometimes they've got direction, that what direction you must take. So I don't think we would come here as an organization and say we are prepared to work with everybody, including those who are on the far left. In fact, one day when all is done, I wish that when we do a cleaning campaign, we can have a leader of a far left political party and have a leader of a far right political party and have people who have come out of other political parties. Because at some point I want us to test whether it is really about the people. I really wouldn't understand, Musa, where it is about the people that must get water, that we must come together and resolve that this has got to be done. Yeah. And we say, no. For as long as we can't work, we've got an appreciation, we've got scars of apartheid, our parents and what have you, and the legacy continues onwards. But we have got to move on with full appreciation. We've got laws of this country. It is our view that laws of this country should not go away. Yeah. But I do think that they've got to be
I said it as my last question, but you said something that very provoked me.
Yeah.
because I'm hearing that there's one name. Okay. I'm hearing one name. Every time I hear service delivery party, but I keep hearing this name. I don't know what sort of association Robert Kumete has with the SDP.
No, there is no association. I have never met Wab Komete in my life. I appreciate him as an entrepreneur. We look up to him.
Yeah.
But I've never met him. In fact, as Service Delivery Party, we have never had reached out to any of the prominent
Business people,
prominent senior politicians or what have you. We have not.
Yeah.
I've read the other day on Facebook, someone was even mentioning names of people that they are saying, hey, these people are heavily funded. It is not true. So we have not met Bob Kumet, a service delivery party. If he may come at a later stage, he would obviously be welcome. I mean, in any case, we are contesting countrywide.
Yeah.
So it may happen that somewhere along the way, we may find people. And we find people. Just yesterday, I was in a meeting, somebody comes and says, I actually just want to assist. It's a pioneer.
Yeah.
Says, man, I've got a car standing there. Can it come and assist the organization?
Yeah.
So I think that's where we are, Musa. Thank you.
Brother, I wish you all the best ahead of the local government elections. I'm sure that this is not the last encounter you and I will have. But I just want to wish you well. I know that it's a heavily contested space. And I suppose you'll have to sell your views and convictions to the people of our province. And I trust they do give you a yes. If they don't, well, we'll see.
Thank you, Musa, and thank you to your viewers and the people that you work with.
Yeah.
I can tell you, when we meet after the elections, I would obviously not be coming back, Musa. We're hitting the ground.
Yeah.
But when we meet, you are going to have a service delivery party ran local municipality in this province. And you are going to find service delivery party with councillors, not only in all the municipalities in the province, in the big cities of our country, service delivery party will be existing. Thank you, Musa.
That. Thabo, appreciate you, my brother, and thank you so much for having me.